world in which we live in now, we go in these places where we say, this is what a strong person looks like. This is what a strong person does. Her kindness is her strength. I think it's okay to be optimistic and still be a badass. My name is Frye, and this year I'll be playing Imogen in Cymbeline and Regan in King Lear. Something that I think about when I come into the first day of rehearsal or into the first read or the table read, I do tend to think about who is this person, what are their adjectives, the relationships that this particular character has with that we know she has or he has with the people in the show, and I'll write these things down. I never did this before, but for some reason, 2 years after being in a pandemic, I'm like, let me come at things just a little bit differently than I had before, and that's one of the kind of new things that I'm doing now, is I'm sitting down with myself and going, all right, the director's probably going to have completely different ideas than I do, but for now, for the groundwork on day one, let me come in with a clear understanding of who I personally think this character is within the world that Shakespeare has created, and then I will mold it into the world that the director now wants to create and see if those two things kind of match up. Regan is one that the adjectives come pretty easy to. She is power-driven. She is somewhat sociopathic in her style and ways. She is inhibitionless. She doesn't have inhibitions. She finds something, she likes it, she wants it, she takes it. She's kind of like the Ariana Grande song. Some favorite things. She knows how to get what she wants. She's manipulative. She is good around men. So I started thinking about that, and then started thinking about how she, in kind of an Iago way, how she shifts her personality to fit whoever she's talking to at any given moment in the play. So if she's talking to Lear, she has a certain set of tools she uses to get what she wants from Lear. When she's interacting with her sister, it's another set of tools. When she's interacting with Gloucester, with Cornwall, with Oswald, with Edmund, all of these people are chess pieces for her, and she has to play the game differently with each of them. Well, first you're coming at it from a textual standpoint, because there are certain rules that we learn and then break when it comes to Shakespeare, but you do want to be aware of these things when you're working with the text. How's my scansion? What words need to be lifted? What words need to be here? Did Shakespeare want more importance on this word versus this word? Don't hit the pronouns. Whatever you do, don't hit the like all of those rules that are in place. We're so connected to contemporary pieces because this is how we talk. This is how human beings walk around, which in all actuality is exactly what we're doing with Shakespeare, because he was writing about living, breathing people in his time. It's just to a modern ear, it takes it a while to hear because of the musicality and the poetry of Shakespeare. As an actor in modern times, working on Shakespeare, knowing it's going to be a modern audience who is hearing it, the tools that I have learned in contemporary theater actually help to aid that. I'm going to meet this audience where they're at, and I'm going to take what I know of the modern world, and I'm going to now bring it into Shakespeare's world. And that way, I can merge the two together, and it will maybe, hopefully, sound very conversational and real life to this audience that's listening. I have performed at the Houston Shakespeare Festival before. In 2019, I did Rosalind and As You Like It, and Portia, as well as other characters in Julius Caesar, which is a show I had previously done before in New York City with Jack. That version of Julius Caesar, same roles, same extra parts in the show, coming in, but now taking it from a 99-seat house in New York City to the Miller stage, which I personally thought this is exactly how this show needs to be presented, is on the Miller stage. First time you ever step foot on that stage and you walk out, and they try to warn you ahead of time, there's going to be so many faces looking at you, and it's not dark yet, so the faces aren't hidden by the darkness, that this is going to be a deal. you're going to see them, and your body's going to want to viscerally react to that many eyeballs looking at you. And I kept thinking, no way, this is going to be, it's a stage. A stage is a stage, an audience is going to be an audience. But I will never forget that feeling. They open the doors when I have to enter out as Rosalind. And I got so emotional, not as Rosalind, but as like Laura the actor, because you just felt this like community of energy coming at you. I mean, I'm getting chills just thinking about having that moment again after 2 years of not seeing an audience. Oh, let's hope I don't start crying on stage before I'm supposed to. I haven't done a show in this capacity in 2 years. Like, there was a point where I thought, am I going to remember how to do this? Am I going to remember what it's like to be in a rehearsal hall? Am I going to know how to react actually looking at someone's face again? Because we have been doing Zoom Shakespeare or Zoom readings, or, I filmed a show where all I had was a red light to look at, and I was going to trust that there was an audience somewhere out there that was reacting to what I was doing. So I had some inhibitions, I had some nerves and anxiety coming into the process again, thinking that I wouldn't remember how to do any of it. So that was a challenge coming in post-pandemic. But one of the joys is, by the theater God's grace, I guess, it still lives within you, and the minute you step foot on the stage and you connect with somebody, it all starts coming back again. You have a little bit of that moment of being a newborn baby giraffe again, but then it's like, and I think because we so desperately want to play together, that every single time we're together, the woman who's playing, she's not playing my best friend this go around, she's playing my sister, and she's playing my evil stepmother. Every time I'm on stage with Lauren, it is honest to God, it is such a gift. And prior to the pandemic, I probably would have taken that gift for granted, because we were so used to like being in shows, and then one show ends and the other show we go off and do the next contract. But now it's like, oh my God, every moment of this rehearsal process, every time I get to hold your hand, every time I get to look in your face, I'm like, I will not take this for granted, because it could be taken away from me like that. Oh, memorizing lines again when you haven't done it in 2 years, that's a deal. Once we get out onto the Miller stage, I'm going to have that relearning process of hearing my own voice on the microphone, which is a deal out at Miller, having an open venued space versus having this wall in the fishbowl, as we call it, in there. I welcome all the ups and downs of navigating that, because, God, I've missed it. Life is very short. He has a line in the show, I've taken too little care of things. But he's at the end of his life when he makes these realizations. So there's no real time left to fix them or to change the course of his life and his journey. And to come to that realization at a place where there's not enough time to make the changes you wish you would have made, to be the person you wish you could have always been, to have written wrongs a long time ago and made them right. It's a wonderful piece to do post this kind of communal trauma we have all been through, where we've lost people or had people taken away from us, that we only have this one life, and in it, we either do and say the things we should have always said now when we've been given this opportunity, or we might come to the end of our life regretting not having said those things or done those things or taken care of all those little things that we should have taken care of when we had the chance to do it. What is the point? What is the point of Cymbeline? First of all, let's call it what it is. It's Shakespeare in a blender. It is as though Shakespeare said, let's throw a little dash of pants rolls in the mix. Let's get a little the things people loved about Romeo and Juliet. Let's get some villainous characters in there. They love a good villainous character. Ooh, let's put an evil queen in there. Why not? And to a modern audience, they will see some of the same tropes that they find in fairy tales like Snow White, the evil queen, and then this journey that the young princess has to go on to get away from the evil queen, and she meets basically the seven dwarves in this in this cave, except it's three men, and it's hard to say what exactly the main theme Shakespeare was going for in Cymbeline, other than it's really a play of his greatest hits. But I think that it says, don't lose hope. Because every character in this play is always coming to a point in which they could lose hope, but for whatever reason, Shakespeare decides to have them pivot, not lose hope, and to keep going, to keep hoping and praying that there is a resolution to all this wacky stuff that's happening around them, or this heartache, or this pain. And obviously, it being a love story and a comedy, it definitely has resolution in that way, has happy ending. We have happy ending. But man, do they go through some things where you're like, oh, if this were Romeo and Juliet, this would be where they make the decision to drink the poison. We've got a headless man in this. There's just so many places that are ripe for him to turn it into a tragedy, and yet he pivots and turns it into a romance, and then a comedy, and then a tragedy again, and then so yeah, probably the overall theme of Cymbeline is don't lose hope. The two major differences, probably vocally and physically, where they stand in space. So I tend to be more of a Regan, meaning most of the roles I usually play are leading women. Pants roles, yes, but usually the pants roles that start out as some form of a leading woman and then go into the pants roles. And most of those characters like Viola and Rosalind and Portia, they feel very comfortable in their place as male character. They take on that easily. Imogen, she is as fairy tale princess as you can be. She drives from a place of hopefulness, whereas I am used to more or less playing the women that are driving from a place of survival. So when I'm doing Regan, it's very easy for me to find that, and I know that center. There are some moments in the rehearsal for Cymbeline where I will literally come into a scene as though I'm about to speak to Hotspur or something, and Jack Young, the director, will be like, all right, Lady M, we're going to need you to come back in as a Disney princess, and not, because I've already come in with this idea of like, what are we going to do? As opposed to, what are we going to do? So I am playing with the physicality and even my vocal range a little differently than I would. And that is a challenge for me. So it does not come easy to me. It is something I have to work with every time. I have to get a little lighter on my feet, not be so comfortable being a boy, which I am very comfortable in those kind of roles. So I have to try to find that place where, oh, this is what it's like when you've worn dresses your entire life and then they make you wear pants and you're like, I don't know how to move in this. But also fun, because as someone who would love to be a Disney princess, this is my chance. My chance to be Rapunzel. This is it. I used to have a very strong idea of what it meant to play an ingenue. I think I was coming from a very superficial mindset, that in the acting world, if you were playing an ingenue, you had to look a certain way, you had to be a certain way, you had to, things that I did not see in myself, so therefore I kind of thought, well, that will never be what I do, because I just don't fit the mold for what people perceive an ingenue to be. And then I had a director in a show in Milwaukee. She said, well, why do you think an ingenue is only that? Like, why do you think that an ingenue is only this kind of, constant bright-eyed? Human beings are human beings. There are human beings that lead more from their heart, but that also doesn't mean that they don't live with fear and anxiety and vulnerability and deep-rooted strength in other ways. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's so interesting, because I just assumed this meant not this. So for Cymbeline, while doing Cymbeline, knowing that I'm living in a world where Imogen is this princess and is a certain type of princess that we think about and know about and we picture when we think princess. The things she does in the play are very not stereotypical princess things. Yes, she's scared to go out and to dress like a man and to save herself in that way, but she does it anyways. So she has an adventurous side to her that is also her strength, but also her kindness is her strength. And I think in a world in which we live in now, where we go in these places where we say to be strong is to only be this. You can only be, if you are a strong person, this is what a strong person looks like. This is what a strong person does. Imogen shows us that strength comes from kindness. Strength comes from forgiveness and empathy, and strength looks different on everyone, and kindness looks different on everyone, and forgiveness feels different to everyone. So as I'm playing with it and thinking how a modern audience, as I would have done, may look at Imogen and be like, I would never have let my father treat me that way, or I would never have let a husband think those things or do those things, or allow this man to come in here and do this to you in this room and stuff like that. It's not that, first of all, she is a product of her environment, a product of Shakespeare's age, too. We have to remember that a different time, different set of rules, different everything. But she sees the good in every single person that she encounters. And she steps up to those who would not do good, like her stepmother. She sees through that. But she leads from a place of kindness and forgiveness and empathy and determination and adventure, while all still being wrapped in beautiful clothing and wide-eyed, hopeful optimism. Like, it's okay to be optimistic and still be a badass at the same time. Those two things can exist in one. That's Imogen.